So thank you for coming to attend our talk. And today we are going to introduce you the network scan work against 3G and 4G. And we call it Intranet. Later I will explain why we call it 3G, 4G Intranet. And also we apply this network scanning techniques to a vulnerability called WormHole. Later I will introduce you that. But first of all, please allow us to do a self-introduction. And start with me first, probably. My name is Bai Guangdong, and currently I am a lecturer from Singapore Institute of Technology, which is a new university in Singapore. And my research is on mobile security and protocol analysis. This is actually not the first time I gave talk in Black Hat. 1.5 years ago, I presented something about authentication protocols on Android in Black Hat Europe. So this is Zhang Jing. He is a senior Android security researcher from Xiaomi, China. And his research is on Android security and payment security. Say hello to.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zhang Jing.
Okay, so let's come back to our topic. Today we are going to give you around 4 sections. The first one is about introduction and background. Here I will introduce you the 3G and 4G Intranet and also several attack surfaces targeting 3G and 4G Intranet. And then I will introduce our network scanning work against the 3G, 4G Intranet, including how we set up the scanners and also how we apply these scanners onto the WormHole vulnerabilities. And later, Zhang Qing will come to introduce you on the honeypot work, which basically we set up several honeypots to capture and scanning and attack in the 3G, 4G Intranet. So here I introduce you our findings and several interesting results. And finally, it will be a summary and several takeaways for you guys. So the first part is about introduction. And I would like to start from the evolution of our cellular networks. And in last century, around 1980s, we have the first generation mobile telecommunication system. And it was basically based on analog telecommunication, which means the voice are transmitted through analog signals. And at that time, we didn't have data transmission on first generation network. Then in early 1990s, we have the second generation. And the feature of second generation is digitalization, which means the data, the voice are digitalized before the transmit. However, it is limited in a thing called circuit switching, which requires a dedicated point-to-point communication between the sender and receiver when doing a message exchange. And this circuit switching is either based on the time dimension multiple access, the TDMA, for example, the GSM, and also code dimension multiple access, CDMA. And based on this network, the circuit switch data services were provided. The big name is HSCSD, which is high-speed circuit switch data. And 2G provided us first slow data transmission. So around this century, we have the 2.5 and 3G cellular network. So basically, it started to support the packet switching, especially on using the packet switching to support data transmission. So it is still a mix of the circuit switching and packet switching. However, due to the packet switching, it allows the mobile network to transmit IP packet to the internet. And big names include the GPRS, Edge, and CDMA 2000. So currently, we are at the 4G times. So the feature of 4G is that all the data is actually IP-based. It's actually the packet data, IP-based packet data. And it supports both IPv6, IP version IP version 4 and IP version 6. And even the voice in 4G is currently transmitted through the IP packet. So big name include LTE WiMAX. So why do I start from the introduction of the history? Because I want to highlight a fact or such kind of idea that currently is at times that internet over the wireless. Okay. And the second thing I want to introduce you guys is the reason why call 3G and 4G network are intranet. So here I would like to use LTE to show you this idea. And in 4G, usually we have three components. The left-hand side is called, it's a long name, so I just call it Intranet. And second part is the evolved packet called EPC, and this part is Internet. So we start from left-hand side component. Actually, the Intranet consists of a set or several distributed bits. Bits actually the basic station. Okay, so this Intranet actually manages the radio communication between the user equipment, basically the mobile device, and the base station. Also, it facilitates the communication between this part, EPC. Okay, so then we come to the EPC. Here I hide several, actually there are several other subsystems or small components within EPC, but here I just hide them because they are not actually quite related to our work. Here I highlight two gateways. The first one is called SGW, the serving gateway, and this one is to, it serves as a mobility anchor, which means if the mobile device transforms from one base station to the other, the communication still probably need to be maintained. So basically this SGW doing such of things. And another gateway is called PDN gateway. PDN stands for Packet Data Network, PGW. And this guy is quite similar to the router in our traditional network. So what it do is to do an IP address allocation. Okay, so specific for the mobile telecommunication, it also do QoS enforcement and flow-based charging. So based on this architecture, whenever there is a packet, IP packet sent out by the device, it actually goes through this base station and to the gateways, and eventually will reach the internet. Okay, so let's do a little abstraction. Let's hide the existence of the base station and this SGW. We can actually think in this way that different mobile devices actually connect to the PGW. So once it's connected, it will be assigned a private IP address. So in this sense, this connection is quite similar to the wireless local area network. So this is basically the reason why we call 3G, 4G intranet. Okay? So here I show you an example. When we connect a mobile phone to a 4G network, actually the mobile phone is assigned a private IP address, which you can see here. Maybe it's small, quite small, but actually it's a IP address within the range of 10.0.0 to 10.255 to 55255. It's basically the type 1 private address. So this is the reason why we call the 3G and 4G networks intranet. And next, I'm going to do some comparison about the security of this 3G, 4G intranet with traditional intranet like the local area network and wireless local area network. So we start from the local area network. Actually, the nodes connected to a local area network are quite physically next to each other. So by physically next to each other, I mean they may within our house, and may within our office, may within one level of the building. Okay, so it's kind of more trustworthy. Okay, and easier for audit. Okay, because usually all of the nodes are within the same organization most of the time, I would say. And if we look at the wireless local area network, it's still the same. We have different mechanisms to do the protection of the Wi-Fi. For example, the WEP, WPA. And also the Wi-Fi is usually protected by authentication. So I would say it's difficult for the malicious node to actually connect into this wireless local area network. Okay? And let's do something. We call it open Wi-Fi, which means if we go to like Starbucks, probably Starbucks will provide us the Wi-Fi. So I would say people already started to realize the insecurity in this open Wi-Fi environment. And we may not do some sensitive actions within this open Wi-Fi. For example, we said I'm doing a bank transaction in Starbucks, right? So whenever we do that, what we do is we take out our mobile phone, and then we connect to 3G and 4G. Then we connect through 3G and 4G to the bank. But here I want to ask a question. We think this connection is more secure than connecting to open Wi-Fi, but do you think in this way? Okay, you don't have to answer, but later we'll see some risk if we do things in this way. So we actually call this 3G and 4G intranet dark forest. So why do we call this? Why do we call it a dark forest? It's based on two reasons. The first one is usually for a mobile device, it has no idea which intranet is actually connected to. And also it has no idea about his neighbor. He don't know, for example, if we connect to a 3G, 4G network, we don't know what kind of mobile devices are connected to the same intranet we are connecting to. Okay? And also, the 3G, 4G intranet is more dynamic. I would say relatively more dynamic than local area network or wireless or local area network, because it's nature for mobile device to connect and exit frequently. Okay? And also, the mobile device connected to the same base station are not necessarily to connect to the same intranet. Even worse, if you use the same mobile device to connect to the 3G, 4G intranet, in the same place, for example, every day we go to an office, we connect to 3G, 4G, and the intranet is actually different one we connect, in different days. Okay, so it's quite dynamic, I would say. So based on these two reasons, we actually call the 3G, 4G a dark forest. Okay, so one does not know where, the mobile device does not know which intranet it is in, and also it doesn't know the neighbors. Okay? So traditionally, I would have a mini discussion about this thing, this threat, this risk for the Internet of Things. Traditionally, the Internet of Things devices mostly connect to the router, but currently we have the 3G, 4G, or even 5G empowered IoT devices, which means those devices might directly connect to 3G, 4G network. So the devices also join into the dark forest. Okay? And basically here I introduced you the idea about the 3G, 4G and why we call it intranet. So later, next, I'm going to introduce you our work, the network scanning against those 3G and 4G intranet. So this part, I will introduce you the scanners we set up, and also the case study, the WormHole vulnerabilities. and several scanning results and statistics which you guys may be interested. And also we will have a short discussion about the countermeasures towards the networks. Countermeasures against the network scanning in the open 3G, 4G intranets. Okay? So first is the scanner setup. Basically, we use two types of devices. The first type is, I would say, is a 4G wireless router-based desktop. So basically, we use a 4G wireless router to just insert it into the desktop, and it will turn the desktop into something like mobile device, which means the desktop will join into the 3G, 4G intranet. So the router we used is provided by Huawei. And we do this for scalability because usually the mobile devices have limited resource for us to do the scanning. However, we still have the 4G empowered mobile device as another scanning. So basically, if we use this thing, we can easily move this scanner to different place. So it's for mobility, I would say. Okay. So by such kind of a setup, we mainly we are empowered the scalability and mobility. Okay. So before I go to the scanning, I would like to introduce you a case study about WormHole vulnerability. So this kind of vulnerability was firstly reported in 2015, and it was first found in Baidu's SDK, and it got 14,000 applications infected, and 100 million of users were at risk by this vulnerability. And later, other similar vulnerabilities are also found from different applications. I also would say that a major application. So if you look at the name, this one is by Qihoo, this one is by Gaodeditu, actually was obtained by Ali, I would say. Yeah. So they are all big names and have a lot of users in China. So this vulnerability is caused by a thing called immortal service. Immortal means this service will never die. So it will keep running at backend of the device. And initially it was created for inter-application communication. So basically a proxy. So if we look at Android, most of the time it's a service component. So we call it a proxy. A proxy is created as a server, and it opens some port for the client to invoke. So it's like this service may have some high privilege, like it may be granted different permissions. And those applications without such kind of permissions actually can send a command to this proxy to do things like add contact information silently, or start some application, or uninstall application, and also sometimes will upload the local files to a remote server. So such kind of things. But of course it provides us several functionality. But the thing is, it probably kind of malicious, because can you guys imagine some application will add contact information silently? Yeah, it's quite strange, I would say. Okay. So these techniques also be patented. Several, okay, I hide the name. Some company in China already, already get patent. So basically, it used the technique I just described to do some, I don't know, functionality or malicious behavior. Okay. So what will happen if we get such wormhole vulnerability? Basically, this is a proxy, and it often open ports on 0.0.0.0 and 1 to 7. Basically, it's the same device. So if it opens such port, the application on the same device can connect it to it and invoke it. Okay? And also, if the device is infected by some malicious application, the application can also access such ports to do those behavior as well. But here we want to emphasize, if we have the concept of the 3G, 4G intranet, actually some attacker from network can also access this port. So later I will show you how that can be done. So we use our scanner to test 3 telecom operators in China. And here I anonymize them. And we scan those intranets at different time, different locations. So each time we scan the whole subset. And subset is mostly depends on IP address we get from the PGW. Okay? And during our scanning, we didn't test the liveness because if we do that, it's highly likely to be blocked by the firewalls or IDS of the operators. Therefore, we didn't do the liveness detection. So we use the tool Nmap, which is a quite popular tool. And here I list I would say the commands we use. Basically, those ports are the ports opened by the vulnerable application I just mentioned. I just list the Baidu SDK, the 360 browser, and so on and so forth. And we use, I would like to highlight several options. For example, here PN means multi-threading thing, which means we do not scan using multiple threads. This will prevent us from being detected by an IDS. And also, we do not do the DNS resolution because I would say it's not necessary. We never use the domain name. And also, we do the pace controlling, uses T parameter here. And our scanning is script-based scanning. And in this script, we basically assign different payload to different ports because different port might have different parameter. Okay. So here, for example, if it's this one I think it's Baidu SDK, so it will require such kind of body, and it will require several special parameters. So this one is also the same. It may have different paths, different parameters. So here I would like to give you a bit about steps we use to do the scanning. So basically we push the Nmap to Android, so into this folder. And because we are writing things into this folder, we need the device to be rooted. And then we need to assign the execution permission to this to the Nmap file. Then we can push the script file and do the scanning. So here I show you some result, and this scanning was done in last year January, and we found so. Unfortunately, we were blocked by some operator. Later, I will explain this, and also we use alternative to actually successfully scan this operator. So later, I will discuss that. And in other two operators, we successfully found those infected devices. So, for example, so the one with the highest number is this one. Is application provided by another major company in China, and we only scan around several tens of thousands hosts. I mean tens of thousands addresses, and we already find nearly 1,000 devices which got infected. So, but here we cannot estimate infection rate because if you still remember, just now I mentioned we do not do the liveness detection. Therefore, we have no idea in each address whether there is a device or not. Okay. So another thing you guys may be interested is some speed thing. So this is the data we collect. The fastest scanning is on, the fastest scanning is on operator B, and it only takes 1 minute to finish 256 IP address, and then it takes around 7 hours to finish this whole subnet. And the second is the operator A. It takes around 5 minutes to finish 256 address. And the lowest one is in this one. It takes 1 hour to finish 256 IP addresses scanning. So just now I mentioned in operator A we get blocked it, so we use an alternative scanner called SCAPI. So the reason why we get blocked when we were using an app, Nmap, is we guess it's because of firewall or IDS in operator A. But later we use SCAPI to solve that question, to solve that problem. So in SCAPI we use a two-step scanning. The first step is we use NAR scan to actually test the liveness. Then, if the port is open, we will use another API in SCAPI to send our payload and to get response from the IP address from the device on the IP address. So far we already be able to scan this subnet of operator A. So here is some code we used to do the scanning use SCAPI. So you can see here is the NAR scan I just mentioned, and here's another scan. We send a payload to the IP address. So we did collaborate with the developers, and we notify them there is such kind of WormHole vulnerability. And if possible, if we can get contact with the developers. And after we did that, in 3 months, we did another scan. So we can see the number of infected devices already get decreased. So this number is the number we get during the first scan in January I just mentioned. So this one is the numbers we get in the second scan after 3 months. And also we try to look at the applications in the market to see whether they have such WormHole vulnerability. So what we did is we crowd 200,000 applications from alternative application market in China. And we just do pattern matching to find out which application actually using the server socket and datagram socket or nano HTTPD in their APK file. And we find actually a lot, around, I would say it's 50,000 applications actually use those things. So we've picked one, which is a very popular application, which has around 11 million installs. So here, again, I do anonymization for the security of users. So we found this application open server socket and listen on port 6666. And it can receive some commands. So we basically reverse engineering the APK and find out it receives several commands and do different things. This is an older version. Later, we also do a research on its newer version. It actually has some protection over the commands, which means the commands now is not transmitted in plain text. So it uses something, I wouldn't say it's encryption, but hide some information to protect the commands. So here I want to introduce you how it does that. And the command is firstly, for example, if we get a command of jump to activity, which means to open another activity. So if we have this command, what it do is to first do a basics for encode, then XOR with some function which takes seed as input, but it's not important, right? Because XOR has some features. If you XOR the same thing, it becomes nothing, right? So basically, first thing, if the client want to invoke that proxy, it need to encode the command in this way, and so the proxy will decode the command. Okay. So here you may be interested in is how this seed actually come from, because initially the client doesn't have this seed, right? The client wants to invoke this proxy, but it doesn't have this seed. Therefore, it cannot do the first step encryption, right? So actually, if we further examine the code with the APK file, we find that actually if we send a plain text version EX, we will get the seed. So overall, yeah, we can figure out how this thing done eventually. So here the thing is it actually uses a kind of protection mechanism, but it's security by obscurity. Basically, it means there is no security at all. Okay. So we also set up honeypots in 3G and 4G intranet to see whether we are able to capture those scanning done by maybe malicious attackers. So here I would like to invite my collaborator Zhang Qing to introduce you our work on the honeypot part.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zhang Qing. The next will be me to explain how to build a honeypot on 3G, 4G intranet. It contains two parts. One is honeypot setup. Another is how to use to find the potential attackers in the 4G intranet. Okay, let's see the honeypot setup. We set up 4 honeypots over 4 cities in China, in Beijing, Yunnan, and the other 2. We build 2 kinds of honeypots. First one is 4-post mapping and part post mapping honeypots using different devices. For the 4-post mapping honeypot devices, we need 4G routers, such as the Huawei USB wireless router and a desktop PC. We also use a free open source software which supports honeypot deployments, named Modern Honey Network. So the PC will get a 4G IP address in these things. And we can use the MHN to open all the ports to record the scanning network to network traffic to us. Just like this. The second one is the customized honeypot on mobile devices. We build an Android application which opens 6 well-known WormHole ports. When the attacker scans our honeypot, it will feed all the information the attacker needs and record the information of this attack. Just showing as this picture, like this. So the next step is set up it and just waiting the hunters. let's see our results. Our results show that each honeypot is scanned once a day on average, which means 3G, 4G intranet scanning has been used, and known wormhole vulnerabilities has been extensively exploited. Our honeypot can record the log of the scanning done by the attackers, so we can use the logs to trace the attacks. Here I want to show you one example. The picture shows parcel logs of the attackers. We can got an IP address here, like this. So we searched the whole string using Google, and we found that under an open source project which offers anonymous web access, the owner of this IP asked a question: why this X web profile is added in 2014? From this, we can make two estimations. Firstly, the attacker is doing 4G intranet scanning using the anonymous tools. Secondly, since the petition is applied and used in 2013, I think the attacker may know the wormhole in 2014 and use it to do malicious things. Finally, let me show you another attack detected by our honeypot. Our logs show that someone used a wormhole to install a spyware located in this website. So we download it and restore it. We found that the spyware can read the user phone's SMS messages and send them to an email address, like this. The email address and the password are found in the APK file. So we can log in the email and find more evidence about the attackers. So this is the whole things about our honeypot. Next, let's go on and continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Zhangqing. So I guess you guys may be waiting for an early lunch, but I come again. So just several summary and takeaways for you guys using another few minutes. So we would say that compared to the traditional intranet like local area network or wireless local area network, actually 3G, 4G intranet is more open and dynamic. So it is possible to conduct large scale. For us, it's just use some small devices, and we do not do it in a distributed way, a multi-threading way. So we would say it's possible to do that. This definitely is a network surface we need to pay attention to. Okay? And also, it may have been exploited earlier, as Zhangqing has shown that, probably because wormhole was reported in 2015, but just now evidence shows that maybe someone already doing this thing before the wormhole was reported. So it's definitely we need to pay attention to this surface. And also, as I mentioned, as I discussed previously, since the IoT devices are currently empowered by 3G, 4G, or 5G later, so it's definitely a potential risk for those IoT devices. Okay? And we will have some suggestions as well to both operators and application developers. So for operators, probably some advanced intrusion detection system, firewalls, and so on and so forth need to be deployed in their intranets. And for the application developers, so whenever they feel necessary to open such a proxy, they want to open port for other client, for other application, or for other remote guys to invoke, they need to probably consider use authentication to protect the port, to protect the proxy it opened. And we are happy to see several research already targeting this direction. So in last year's CCS, which was in August, several researchers already published paper on this direction. Okay, so that is all for today, and so we introduce you guys the 3G and 4G intranet, this idea, and also show you that it's actually not secure. Okay. So we would like to answer questions from you guys. Yeah, seems you are waiting for an early lunch. Shall we make it? Yes, please.
Do you guys find any IoT devices?
Not yet. In our honeypot, we haven't found that. Yeah. But we would like to emphasize, or we like to highlight that it's definitely a potential risk. So in future, if we consider the security of IoT devices, definitely this is an attack surface we need to look at. Yeah. Yes, please.
Does the stuff that you're hiding kind of help protect it from non-3G, 4G? Because it is on the internet, so technically it could be attacked by anyone, right? Like, what mitigates, why do you have to be on the 3G, 4G network to see these? Do you see them from other places? Do you access them through, you know what I mean? Like, is the risk bigger than just phone?
Oh, I see. I see. So let me repeat your question, see whether I understand correctly. So basically you want to say currently we're just doing the scanning within the internet. So you want to ask whether there is some risk come from a public internet. Yeah. I think maybe because of the gateway we haven't found that. But definitely it's good direction to explore. Yeah, thank you for your advice. Yes.
So if there's connected another PGW, you can't scan it.
Yeah, I think this question is quite similar to the previous one. So basically, those intranets are separated intranets. So it's like the traditional subnet. They may have the gateway to control the. It's like NAT, NAT, right? They have the gateway to control the traffic. So currently, we are not able to do that because of this reason. Yes.
Do you see any difference with 5G?
Actually, not. I would say 5G currently, not sure. We need to look at the white paper, probably say what is the architecture. Yeah. Okay, if no more questions, thank you guys. Thank you for attending our talk. Thank you.